Happy Friday. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Get ready for an action-packed edition of this show here on this Friday. College basketball. What a night it was last night. Some games right down to the wire, some upsets as well. Maybe the NCAA Tournament is turning towards Cinderella a little bit. We'll get into that here on the show. Also, another day of baseball, opening day in some cities around the country, so we will get a preview of that as well. On our show today, Kyle Soppe will join us, talk some college hoops, see who he likes tonight as we get ready for the Elite Eight this weekend. He'll be with us at about 12:10. Sam McQuillan joins us from Legal Sports Report with the very latest on prediction markets and everything else happening in the world of sports betting. And then John Lafayette of The Measure weighs in on sports and media and broadcasting. So those are our three guests here on today's show. But first and foremost, let's go over the slate, which begins in a few hours from now. And here are the matchups. St. John's looking to upset Duke in the East region, 7:10 p.m. Eastern. That's the first game on tap, followed by Alabama and Michigan. Wow, heavyweight battle there. Michigan State takes on UConn, 9:45 p.m. Eastern. And then tonight it is Tennessee and Iowa Iowa State, out in the Midwest. Cyclones trying to join, by the way, their neighbors in Iowa who did advance to the Elite Eight. Last night, Iowa not only dethroned the Gators, they dethroned the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 77-71. They were slight dogs, plus 1.5, and they only led toward the end of the game, but now the lowest seeded Big Ten team to make it to the Elite Eight since it began back in 1979. That's crazy. Bennett Sturtz had 20 points, 4 assists, and Iowa will see if they can get to the Final Four. Seems like for the first time in a really long time. Here's Ben McCullum on his team's winning, and certainly Fred Hoiberg had a nice season for Nebraska, but says they came up just short.
We weren't fantastic to start. They had an elite game plan to start. They played with elite pace. They adjusted their defense quite a bit. I think a lot of people will talk about a rivalry. I was around it when I was in Iowa, and grew up in Iowa and understand the rivalry and whatnot. It's nice to have, I guess, if you would call it a rival that runs such a class program. I think Coach Hoiberg, they've got great kids. They completely turned everything around from the previous season, and they have absolutely nothing to hang their heads about or anything. I have the utmost respect for them.
First of all, hats off to Iowa. They played great, especially down the stretch, and they deserve the win. It stings. This one hurts about as bad as any I've been a part of, just because of what this group is all about. And we don't get to lace them up anymore together as a group. And they've been all about the right things. These guys will be a part of history of Nebraska basketball forever for winning the first NCAA tournament game, getting to the Sweet 16, most wins in the history of the program, highest ranking. They just did so many things to elevate our program, and I'm really proud of them. When the sting does wear off, which it will at some point, maybe, but these guys deserve a lot of credit for what they've done for Nebraska basketball.
Another 2 seed, by the way, goes down in the tournament. It was Houston last night. Some folks thought they had a chance to win it all. 55 points. That's not going to get it done. Illinois wins 65-55 in the game. David Murkovich had 14 points and 10 rebounds, but the win naturally very big for Illinois and Brad Underwood, who talked after the game about his big win over Houston.
Well, my hat's off to Houston and Kelvin and the season they had. We beat a great basketball team. Team I've got so much respect for, and a coach I've got tremendous respect for. I thought our defense was outstanding, both halves. I thought we set a really good precedent early, contesting shots, not giving up paint twos. I thought was huge. I thought that we made shots hard for them, which we had to do. We didn't make shots. We got some good looks early. That first half probably set basketball back a few years in terms of the excitement level and the shooting, but excited to be moving on, and that's what we came here to try to do, and very fortunate we beat a great team tonight and get to move on.
I love coming in every day and getting them through practice, as much as coach gets on their ass, I'm always there for them, just telling them that, he's doing this because he loves y'all. He's trying to make y'all better. And, I know what it's like to beat him because I was there at one point, thinking that he's just getting on me just to get on me, but it's for a reason. And, I just try to do the same things Jamal did for me. It's just, I love everybody that's been through here, and I love Coach, but I'm hard.
Tough and emotional loss for Houston, as you could see there. Game of the night, without a doubt, Purdue beating Texas 79-77. Texas covered, but Trey Kaufman-Wren hit the game-winning tip as time expired off a missed three by Braden Smith. So they will move on. Purdue, a stranger to the Elite Eight at this point. They keep losing in the early rounds, but they got it done finally this time. All right, so let's hear from Trey Kaufman-Wren. Here he is on the game-winning tip. In case you missed it, he walks us through it.
And you saw the shot wasn't going in. Did you realize that Trey was going to be right there to tip it in? Like, what was also going through your mind at that moment?
No, I mean, I think, we give the ball to Braden. I think he can, go by anybody in the country. We have plays designed for him to do that, and so I thought he got a good shot. And then, Coach always says that, it's not a lot of times it's not the first shot that goes, it's those tip-ins at the end of games. Like he said that, my 4 years here, so it's kind of cool to, actually experience that. So, no, I just tried to get myself in position to get a rebound or, a post if, his defender cut him off.
It feels really good to be a part of what we did. That's one thing that I would say. I remember being in Maui over Thanksgiving and having gone there a number of times. It's an amazing trip and experience, playing 3 games in 3 days on national television in this wonderful, beautiful place. And we went there this year. I remember thinking on the trip, like, God, nobody knows each other. Like it's just the circumstances of being so new. And that was our starting point, but these guys, they kept working together. I think we definitely grew closer together. And obviously getting to this round is not easy. I think it's an accomplishment of itself.
Sean Miller with a great season at Texas, no question. Good run for them also. Arizona's moving on, by the way, to the Elite Eight. They beat Arkansas handily, 109-88, covered that 8.5-point spread despite Darius Acuff, who was so good for the Hogs. He had 28 points in the loss. Also, Will Wade is leaving North Carolina State. He's going back to LSU. He was fired back in 2002 over some allegations, level 1 and level 2 violations in college basketball. All right, in Major League Baseball yesterday, for the first time ever, we saw the ABS system, automated balls and strike system, posted across baseball stadiums. And here's how it went. Hitters went 9 of 15 in terms of challenges. Catchers went 10 of 14. Pitchers, who should never challenge, by the way, they always think they're right. They went 0 for 1. Overall, higher percentage than what we generally see on a daily basis, 19 of 30. I believe this number will be closer to 50% over the course of the season. Okay, first start for Paul Skeens yesterday. Since the World Baseball Classic, it did not go as planned. He did not get out of the first inning. He gave up 5 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning. He was failed by his defense and wasn't happy, certainly, to see O'Neal Cruz struggling in center field. If you see the box score, that really didn't tell the story. Freddie Peralta, 7 strikeouts, 5 innings pitched. And a lot of rookies homered yesterday, by the way. Carson Bench ended up hitting a home run in his Major League Baseball debut. The Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks last night on opening night, 8-2. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 6 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts. Andy Pajes hit a home run. Also, the Tigers, behind Kevin McGonigal, another rookie, as I mentioned, 4 hits in his Major League Baseball debut. Tariq Skubal won, 8-2. The final there. The Red Sox blanked the Reds. Garrett Crochet, 6 shutout innings, and Jacob Mizorowski pitched well for the Brewers as well. We'll be back with more NewsWire right after this. So why is this? The bigger question, Kevin, that we should be asking is, why is this happening now? This could have happened last week. Could have happened the week before. It is goodwill season, Kevin. It is goodwill season. We want to make sure the fans are buying those tickets We are committed to opening day.
I like that.
We are committed to spending them. I mean, look, it is what it is. Like, this is what you do to fire up the fan base.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball announced yesterday that they will be having a partnership this season with a company that we've come to be very familiar with over the last 6 months. Polymarket is the exclusive prediction market partner of Major League Baseball and the only platform allows to use teams, logos, and marks. Representing the latest pro league to embrace the prediction markets.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
I do believe there are causes for players to become basketball drunk. Thursday, Friday, you're sitting around a hotel and all you're doing is watching ball. And then you go out on the floor and you're a little bit groggy. Yeah, because all you've done is you've laid in that hotel bed and watched game after game after game. And you get caught up in the emotion like everybody in the country was.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
He didn't get 50 home runs? He only stole 13 bases? Boy, he only pitched to a 4.15 ERA. Yeah, he's not the MVP. Like, who can steal it from him? If Ohtani plays the whole season, who can steal it from him, Tom?
It has to be something so dramatic that it will bring pause to the voters to say, hey, Ohtani's great. He was a good pitcher this year. He was a really good hitter. But what this player doing, we have to take note of.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. All right, big night in college hoops yet again. Kyle Soppe going to be up late watching these games. We got some fun ones last night, by the way, in the round of 16. So that lived up to the billing. Let's bring in Kyle for his opinions, picks, and recaps as well. Kyle, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. All right, so this was, if not the game of the tournament, it was among the games of the tournament last night. Purdue beats Texas 79-77. I just can't stop to help myself from thinking that Purdue has just been exiting early from these NCAA tournaments constantly, but maybe this is the game for their school and for this current team that maybe gets them a little bit further over the top. Obviously, they did not cover this 8.5-point spread. Big win, though, for them. And as they say, sometimes you got to get the monkey off your back. Maybe this was that one for Purdue.
Yeah, surviving and advancing. It's the name of the game this year. They don't advance you if you don't cover the spread. Like, they're not obligated to that. We would love them to do that. Them drawing Arizona is an interesting draw here because I think Purdue could hang with Arizona. I've got an inside a point as far as the point spread goes, but I don't think we've seen Purdue's best in this tournament, whereas Arizona, I'm pretty sure we've seen about as many haymakers as they can throw. They look phenomenal. We've seen their best. Purdue's best yet to come. If we get their best tomorrow night, I could see an upset outright. If nothing else, I'm taking the 5.5. But Purdue, I mean, you've got Braden Smith. You're getting any shot you want every time down the court. If they can slow the pace, I think they more put together to hang with Arizona than most teams are.
Yeah, I think it could be a really great showdown. This weekend is going to be, by the way, must-see TV with this NCAA tournament. I think so, too. This is a surprise to me, honestly. I mean, I think probably a surprise to everybody. Iowa beats Florida, and now Iowa beats Nebraska to advance to the Elite Eight. Bennett Sturtz is a name that everyone is now getting used to. May not have seen him play a ton during the regular season because, honestly, Kyle, who's watching Iowa basketball that much? Probably no one. But you look, I thought Nebraska was going to win from the beginning. I thought Nebraska was going to win at halftime. And then all of a sudden, just like against the Gators, the game just went on its head. Iowa advances.
Yeah, they do a little bit of everything, and they take on the nature of their point guard in Sturtz. You mentioned that. He just doesn't blink. His heart rate doesn't go anywhere. He's running around the court all day, and you need to keep up with him. And teams just run out of gas. Like you said, Nebraska was the better team probably for 60-65% of that game. It didn't matter. Iowa makes plays at the right time, and they're another one. They slow down the pace. They want you to play their style, and they're comfortable in a 60-65 possession game that their good will be better than your good. Speed them up. Got some problems, and I worry that Illinois is kind of, maybe a little too efficient for them in the next round. I've got them favored, but not covering this number. I've got it closer to 5 than the 6.5 it opened at, but I think this is going to be another good one. It's not going to be up and down, but it's going to be ultra efficient. There's going to be shot making. It's going to be competitive down to the wire. Another one.
Yep, looking forward to that matchup tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern. Okay, so maybe the most anticipated game of the Thursday-Friday slate is tonight at 7:10 Eastern when Duke takes on St. John's. And boy, this line has seemed to be stuck all week long on the 6.5. Total of 140.5. Naturally, Duke is going to be favored. They, Kyle, clearly have not played their very best basketball of the season and have had some injuries as well. St. John's, on the other hand, is playing their best basketball, but they make these lines for a reason, Kyle, you know? Like, I mean, if the world was on St. John's, then the line would be 2 or 3, but it's 6.5 here. So when it comes to these sort of games, I'm like, I really want to take St. John's, but I'm sort of thinking they make these odds not to lose money, right?
Vegas is telling you one thing, and I'm in full agreement. I've got it closer to double figures here. Duke, like you said, we haven't seen their best, but their best is far better than St. John's best. So if we see anything close to that, I think you get something like what we saw in Illinois-Houston yesterday, where it's just kind of a bloodbath. St. John go through like a 4 or 5 minute scoreless stretch, and they can't recover. We saw Houston do that twice. If they do that twice, this thing's not making it to the half in a competitive manner. For me, I'm playing St. John's under their point total right now, about 67.5. I'd go even lower than that. Duke's given up 65 or 65 or more points in roughly half their games. And in those games, you're talking over 9 threes made for the opponent, over 36%. And that's just not what St. John's does. They've done that twice all year against a top 200 defense. Top 200. Duke's top 5 in the country. I don't see St. John's getting much past 60 in this game. You're not beating Duke with that.
Probably going to be a fun game tonight. I don't know who's going to come out on top, but it's Alabama, so that means some points. And Michigan's offense pretty good too. Wolverines, though, 9.5-point favorites, total of 173.5. Clearly, Michigan has been the better team all season long, but Alabama gets off to a hot start, shoots the ball well. Kyle, they can hang in.
Yeah, Alabama's a front-running team. If they're playing with a lead, I fear them. They get going, a 10-point lead turns into 15 or 20 with them awfully quick. But like you said, they want pace. They want to get up and down. Michigan, they've lost 3 games this year. 2 were their slowest games of the year. So that doesn't really tell me that, they're 33-1 in the other games. You're not going to speed up Michigan to a point where they're uncomfortable. I've got this right around the number. I've got it at 10.1 for Michigan. So I don't feel strongly against the spread here, but I do think the Wolverine fans and their faithful can feel good about marching on to the Elite Eight.
How many times has Tom Izzo been in this spot with a chance to advance to the 8 or the 4 and being a slight dog here? Total of 135 against Connecticut tonight. My gosh, a heavyweight battle coming up here. And it's a coin flip type game because UConn probably on paper the better team, but there's no question that the odds makers are telling us that Michigan State could advance just as easily.
Yeah, you say on paper. On my paper, they're 0.2 of a point better. This is about as close as you're going to get. I'm not comfortable playing this game either way. If forced to pick, I'll take the 1.5. But that's the nature of this. You've got Izzo, you've got Hurley. This is going to be a great matchup. If it comes down to it, Michigan State 15th in the field here in free throw percentage, and UConn fouls too much. So maybe they get into the bonus early, bleed clock, get free throws late, and get home here. But this is a coin flip. Vegas has it right. I'm not touching it.
All right, so let's do this, Kyle. We got to take a quick break here on NewsWire, and then what we'll do is we'll come back. We'll preview the game tonight between Tennessee and Iowa State, and then Kyle gives us his official card, and we'll also take a look at some games tomorrow. Of course, in this new world of legalized sports betting over the last few years, you get these lines immediately after the game's end. So we got those for tomorrow. We'll break it all down for you next. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. March Madness continues. So does Major League Baseball, NBA, and the NHL. We have it all for you when we come back next. So don't go away. So why is this? The bigger question, Kevin, that we should be asking is, why is this happening now? This could have happened last week. Could have happened the week before. It is goodwill season, Kevin. It is goodwill season. We want to make sure the fans are buying those tickets. We are committed to opening day.
I like that.
We are committed to spending them. I mean, look, it is what it is. Like, this is what you do to fire up the fan base.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball announced yesterday that they will be having a partnership this season with a company that we've come to be very familiar with over the last 6 months. Polymarket is the exclusive prediction market partner of Major League Baseball and the only platform allows to use teams, logos, and marks. Representing the latest pro league to embrace the prediction markets.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
I do believe there are causes for players to become basketball drunk. Thursday, Friday, you're sitting around a hotel and all you're doing is watching ball. And then you go out on the floor and you're a little bit groggy. Yeah, because all you've done is you've laid in that hotel bed and watched game after game after game. And you get caught up in the emotion. Like everybody in the country was.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
He didn't get 50 home runs? Huh, he only stole 13 bases? Boy, he only pitched to a 4.15 ERA. Yeah, he's not the MVP. Like, who can steal it from him? If Ohtani plays the whole season, who can steal it from him, Tom?
It has to be something so dramatic that it will bring pause to the voters to say, hey, Ohtani's great. He was a good pitcher this year. He was a really good hitter. But what this player doing, we have to take note of.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to continue here with Kyle Soppe as we take a look at one more game in the college basketball tournament tonight, and then we'll look at the weekend as well. All right, so 10-10 Eastern, Tennessee against Iowa State. My bracket has Iowa State here and winning a couple more times here, Kyle, toward the end. This was one of my teams that I was like, if I could just get them to the Final Four, maybe I got a shot. 3.5-point favorites, 139.5 the total tonight, too. Should be, I guess, a low-scoring competitive game.
Yeah, you've got them in the Final Four. I'll take it one step further. I've got them in the final here, so we're aligned there. I've got them by just under 8 points in this game, so I do like them to cover. I'm going to take them to win both halves is kind of how I'm playing this. Craig, since Valentine's Day, that was a long time ago. Valentine's Day, we had feet of snow on the ground. I was out in shorts yesterday. It was a long time ago. Since Valentine's Day, Iowa State has lost 5 halves of basketball, not games. Halves. They don't get beat. We saw it last week against Kentucky. They fell behind big early, 20-9 against Kentucky, missing their best player, and they just came back. They threw punches. They were leading at halftime. They blew them out in the second half. Iowa State, for my money, my favorite team to watch, but my numbers like them just as much. I think they get it done here and cover the number.
Okay, hopefully so for you and for me, and then we move on. All right, so Sweet 16 card here. You just mentioned Iowa State, so I have a feeling you're bullish on them. Give me maybe your 2 favorite plays of the upcoming 24 hours here or so.
Yeah, I'm about double the number here. So you can see on the screen there, I do think they cover the 3.5. I've got them winning both halves. I mentioned that, plus 185 if you want a little bit more juice on that end. And like I said, I don't think St. John's, I think they're getting suffocated and strangled out of this game. I don't think they get to 67.5. I'm not 100% sure they get in the 60s. So that's where we're going there, and I would take Duke to cover that number if you want to parlay it, SGP, do anything fancy like that.
Okay, so now let's move on, Kyle, to tomorrow's slate, and this is where things, of course, take the biggest turn here. I mean, the opportunity to go to the Final Four. We have 4 teams here that are not necessarily strangers to it, but, feels like it's been a minute here. So Iowa takes on Illinois. That's the 6:09 Saturday night first game. Total of 138.5. I think some would feel that this is a big line. I mean, I understand Iowa wasn't supposed to be here, but it feels like win or lose, they're kind of in every game. The Illini, though, 6.5-point favorites in this one. Do you have any lean at all as these lines came out late last night this morning?
I like Illinois to win the game, but my numbers do come in light on them. I've got it just under 5 points, so you're giving me 6.5. I'll roll with Iowa in what I think will be a very low possession game, and those, just by nature of how they are played, are hard to distance yourself in a major way. We've said it before, we'll say it again. Bennett Sturts could be the best player on the court when this game plays. So if you're giving me arguably the best player on the court and 6.5 points and a slow tempo, that's a lot to overlook. I've got Illinois advancing, but I do have Iowa covering this number.
Okay, and then the nightcap tonight, or tomorrow night, 8:49 p.m. Eastern, Arizona with a shot to get back to the Final Four. They got to run through Purdue here. So as we discussed, is this Purdue's shot? Is this their chance to finally put this and get their team into the Final Four? Total of 152.5. I mean, the thing is, Kyle, about this matchup is that Arizona, a couple of months ago, if you would have looked at this game and looked at this line, you would have just pounded Arizona, but they were a little inconsistent over the last month of the season.
Yeah, I've got this as 0.6, under a point spread here, so I'm going to take the 6.5. Whether Purdue can win or not, that's a different story. We had 39 Arizona free throw attempts the other day. That's a huge number. Some of the teams left in this field are all top 15 in the nation and not letting the opposition get there. Purdue 12th in the nation, Duke 2, Illinois 1. So I think the sledding's about to get tough for Arizona. They're as talented as anybody. They're playing better than anybody. But I'd be surprised if this is a one-sided game come the final media timeout or so.
And did you say that you'd like Iowa State to win it all? Is that your team to win it all at this point?
I've got them in the finals. Technically, I picked Duke over them. I would not mind seeing Iowa State. I want to see them play basketball as long as I can. I've got Duke favored by about 2.5 points if we get to that matchup. But Iowa State, I do have getting to the final game.
All right, Kyle will check in before the Final Four comes up next Saturday. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the hoops this weekend.
No other way. Best time of year.
All right, Kyle Sopley with us. Great breakdowns of all of these games getting ready to go off. I don't know how I'm going to keep up with baseball, football, basketball, hockey, everything going on right now. I guess what I'll do is I'll download the SportsGrid app just so I have it and I can monitor all the plays here. I'm take out my phone, scan that QR code, available for iOS and Android. It is the SportsGrid app. You can also stream us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Up next, Sam McQuillan joins us from Legal Sports Report. Is it possible that Colorado will ban prop bets? Sam will tell us next. We'll be right back after this quick timeout here on NewsWire. So why is this? The bigger question, Kevin, that we should be asking is why is this happening now? This could have happened last week. Could have happened the week before. It is goodwill season, Kevin. It is goodwill season. We want to make sure the fans are buying those tickets. We are committed to opening day.
I like that.
We are committed to spending them. I mean, look, it is what it is. Like, this is what you do to fire up the fan base.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball announced yesterday that they will be having a partnership this season with a company that we've come to be very familiar with over the last 6 months. Polymarket is the exclusive prediction market partner of Major League Baseball and the only platform allows to use teams, logos, and marks, representing the latest pro league to embrace the prediction markets.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
I do believe there are causes for players to become basketball drunk. Thursday, Friday, you're sitting around a hotel and all you're doing is watching ball. And then you go out on the floor and you're a little bit groggy. Yeah, because all you've done is you've laid in that hotel bed and watched game after game after game. And you get caught up in the emotion. Like everybody in the country was.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
Get 50 home runs? He only stole 13 bases? Boy, he only pitched to a 4.15 ERA. Yeah, he's not the MVP. Like, who can steal it from him? If Ohtani plays the whole season, who can steal it from Ohtani?
It has to be something so dramatic that it will bring pause to the voters to say, hey, Ohtani's great. He was a good pitcher this year. He was a really good hitter. But what this player doing, we have to take note of.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, Sam Aquillet is with us from Legal Sports Report. Sam, enjoying all of the better weather and also the great sports going on right now. It is a great time for live sports and entertainment, that is for sure. And he joins us now here. And we asked some questions about sports here because, we did go through a period last year of a year where we were thinking to ourselves, with all of the stuff happening with the Cleveland Guardians and in the NBA, is there a chance that we could lose the opportunity as sports bettors to bet on to lose betting on prop bets? And it seems like the state of Colorado is stepping in here, Sam, and saying, hey, look, there are so many different options that you have out there. Why have to bet on these individual props? Is this something you think that goes through their legislature and comes to reality?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate reality right now that we're dealing with states that legalized sports betting pretty easily in the past, now coming back to the drawing board, which when you think about what lawmakers, how they treat laws, usually once they get something like sports betting over and done with, they want to move over on to the next thing. But that hasn't been the case with all these scandals recently. You mentioned the Cleveland Guardians. There was a bunch of NBA, college scandals recently as well. And that doesn't even count the football and the stuff before that already kind of feels like it was so long ago. But the fact of the matter is you have a bunch of these recent scandals popping up, a lot of them involving prop bets. And Colorado is one of those states that's saying, hey, maybe we should just get rid of prop bets altogether. That's certainly what this bill that a couple lawmakers are pushing would do. Not only would it ban prop bets, so you can, bet on things like a player's points in a game or rebounds or passing yards, but it would also limit how many deposits a sports bettor can make in one day to 5, and restrict the kind of ads that sports betting brands push out in the state, which would probably be pretty hard to enforce. But goes to show that the prop bet thing isn't just about getting rid of those bet types. Lawmakers are thinking about how do we make gambling safer in general. And that's when you get to the kind of this crossroads between the industry and then lawmakers trying to, help their constituents and, make sure that, bad things don't happen gambling wise in the state. So if prop bets were lost, though, it would cost companies like DraftKings maybe 45%, 50% of their revenue, because not only does that kill a huge portion of the bets they take, it also kind of makes same game parlays and parlays in general. It really limits them or neuters them. I'm not sure if you've ever tried to place like a same game parlay in a state on a college game where there's no props. It's really, you can't really bet on much. It's pretty much the total, the spread, and maybe one or two other things, but it would just really hurt those kind of bets. So it's being proposed right now in Colorado. You certainly have a lot of the industry there pushing back on it as best they can. But again, it comes at a time when the sports betting industry has a lot else on its plate. It's split over this prediction market stuff right now. It's trying to get iGaming passed in other states. It's fighting against sweepstakes casinos and a host of other issues, let alone trying to get other states to legalize sports betting. So kind of wonder, maybe is there a chance that something crazy like this does pass in a state at a time when the sports betting industry is so occupied? I really hope it doesn't, because it would really just push a lot of the activity offshore, and it would be kind of one of those bills where it might look good on the surface, but in practice it might make things even worse in the sports betting environment. And of course, other states pick up what other states do, so you hope it doesn't spread there. But I hope the industry comes out really hard against this. I'm sure they'll continue to. But right now, bill's still alive and well in Colorado. We'll be watching until the end of session, which is in May. So it could take some crazy turns, but we'll keep following and seeing how it goes.
Speaking of crazy turns, Minnesota has had their crazy turns for like 3-4 years. It felt like there was a chance that at least the state was going to get going with some sort of form of legalized sports betting. But every time they inch closer, it seems like there was no progress made. And a story that you have posted over Legal Sports Report seemingly saying the same thing, making some progress, but then all of a sudden the legislature pushing this back. But maybe for the first time in a while, we take another inch closer in Minnesota, Sam.
Yeah, it's really been a tug of war in Minnesota, not even just this year, but the past couple of years. When you talk about sports betting, it's obviously one of those states that hasn't legalized yet, and it has more of a chance to than the others. There's no huge religious opposition in Minnesota. There's no huge anti-gambling groups in Minnesota. For Minnesota, the battle to get sports betting done hasn't been should we legalize it. It's been about who gets control in the state. For years, the Democrats have wanted to give exclusivity to the tribes in the state. There's about 11 which would get control over sports betting under this proposal, which is still alive in the legislature this week. And the Republicans, meanwhile, want to cut charitable gaming groups in on the deal. They want them to get some benefit out of it, so it's not this monopoly model, which we've seen other states adopt. So that's really been the tension here. There's been this bill that kind of was a revival of the same bill we had last year in Minnesota. There was an attempt to move it over to another committee this past week, which would have effectively killed it and slowed down the progress and just kind of made it impossible to really get done before the legislation ends on May 18th. So the clock is ticking, but the bill was not moved over to that committee, which means it's still live. There's still this kind of bipartisan agreement that the Republicans and Democrats have together, which would give the tribal, the groups exclusivity, which is what the Dems want, but it would also give a lot of the tax revenue from sports betting, a 22% tax, over to charitable gaming proceeds. So while those groups wouldn't be included in controlling sports betting, they would benefit from it in some way. So it is kind of refreshing to see lawmakers coming to some sort of compromise here in Minnesota, but just because they've come to this compromise does not mean it will get passed again. Minnesota, as you mentioned, Craig, we've been talking about for years, has not got done, and it's kind of been the same story over and over. They've inched closer, inched back. There's been a tug of war, but this could be the best chance they have in a very, very long time to get it done. Certainly a lot of time before May. We'll see what else gets inserted into the bill, other efforts that try to kill it, don't try to kill it. But you got to hold out some hope here that this is a good chance in Minnesota, about as close as they've been in a long, long time. So could be, when all is said and done, one of the only states we're talking about next year is going online with sports betting.
And speaking of things that are in and out in terms of the landscape of not just sports betting, but casino betting as well, the state of Maryland, which just seems to be ahead of, by the way, a lot of these other states with prediction markets and everything else, have declared that there's got to be some sort of deadline here, I guess, Sam, as to figuring out whether or not the sweepstakes casinos will continue or not. I mean, I guess what goes into this specifically, Sam? Like, how do they make these decisions? Because I feel like Maryland is one of those states that as soon as they feel like something's going a little bit sideways, they try to get out in front of it and maybe even get rid of it. Is this the case here too?
Yeah, well, I wish I knew what made lawmakers and regulators good at their jobs in some states and not so good in other states. I think when you talk about Maryland, you also have to remember that this is a state that once they legalized sports betting, it took like almost 3 years for them to actually go online with it. So they haven't always been super quick and super fast with gaming changes and making changes in the state that kind of help out people. But they are taking, as you mentioned, Craig, a really aggressive stance against what they see as illegal forms of gaming, which have been operating under these kind of regulatory loopholes. You mentioned prediction markets as one of them. They're suing to stop those. And there's also these two bills that are circulating in the state right now, which would target sweepstakes casinos and sweepstakes sports books. These are platforms that operate just like casinos, just like sports books, but because they allow you to write in and get some sort of free play credit, that is kind of the loophole which allows them to not pay gaming taxes, to not follow the state laws. So it is kind of percolating in the state. They've really been aggressive around enforcement. And if we legalize sports betting, we might as well go out and try to crack down on the other forms of sports betting going on, which are illegal and not following the law. So this is a state that spent a lot of money building out its regulated model, consumer protections, collecting tax revenue, issuing licenses to people in the state. Or operators rather. It's handed down a lot of fees over the past couple of years. So it's good to see lawmakers kind of come together and try to get rid of the black market industry or the illicit industry. But I would say Maryland has a pretty good chance of passing this bill and just having another kind of safeguard against these forms of illegal gambling in the state. And we'll see how the prediction market stuff all ends up. I'm sure that's a topic for another day.
And make sure you read all of Sam's work over at LegalSportsReport.com. Sam, thanks again for coming on the show. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. You too.
All right, coming up next, Major League Baseball makes its debut on Netflix. We'll get some of the reviews and results from John Lafayette from The Measure. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. Be right back. So why is this? The bigger question, Kevin, that we should be asking is, why is this happening now? This could have happened last week. Could have happened the week before. It is goodwill season, Kevin. It is goodwill season. We want to make sure the fans are buying those tickets. We are committed to opening day.
I like that.
We are committed to spending them. I mean, look, it is what it is. Like, this is what you do to fire up the fan base.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball announced yesterday that they will be having a partnership this season with a company that we've come to be very familiar with over the last 6 months. Polymarket is the exclusive prediction market partner of Major League Baseball and the only platform allows to use teams, logos, and marks. Representing the latest pro league to embrace the prediction markets.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
I do believe there are causes for players to become basketball drunk. Thursday, Friday, you're sitting around a hotel and all you're doing is watching ball. And then you go out on the floor and you're a little bit groggy. Yeah, because all you've done is just, you've laid in that hotel bed and watched game after game after game. And you get caught up in the emotion. Like everybody in the country was.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
He didn't get 50 home runs? He only stole 13 bases? Boy, he only pitched to a 4.15 ERA. Yeah, he's not the MVP. Like, who can steal it from him? If Ohtani plays the whole season, who can steal it from Ohtani?
It has to be something so dramatic that it will bring pause to the voters to say, hey, Ohtani's great. He was a good pitcher this year. He was a really good hitter. But what this player doing, we have to take note of.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. The Major League Baseball season got underway with a night game on Netflix, something very new for a lot of folks out there. And of course, streaming the first game of the season is something that you had to do to watch the first game of the baseball season. Yankees versus Giants. Yankees pick up win number 1. They'll play game number 2 today. Let's bring in John Lafayette from The Measure for that and a whole lot more. John, thanks for coming on the show. So certainly Netflix made their debut. A lot of mixed reviews, I would say, on the pregame, the postgame, the game itself. What were your thoughts on seeing it play out?
Yeah, well, I watched a few innings. Basically, it looked like baseball, but there were complaints. You're right, absolutely right. There were a lot of complaints. There was fuzzy video. People didn't like the graphics. There were some issues with who was doing the talking in the game. Al Duncan, who came over from ESPN, seems to have gotten high grades. The rest of the crew was a little bit weird. Barry Bonds was good, but Jameis Winston, he's a quarterback. What's he doing on the game? Netflix sort of didn't have a good feel for baseball, according to a lot of people. And also they spent an awful lot of time promoting other shows on Netflix, but that's basically what TV networks do. I think this is basically, it's new. They're going to have to get the bugs out. But really, Netflix isn't going to be a big-time home of baseball. They're going to have the Home Run Derby later in the year. They're going to have the Field of Dreams game. But basically, there's going to be an awful lot of streaming services and an awful lot of other cable channels that are going to be carrying most of Major League Baseball this season. And the problem with that is it's going to be confusing and it's going to be expensive for a lot of people. Now, a lot of us grew up when baseball was on broadcast stations. I grew up in New York. The Mets were on Channel 9. The Yankees were on Channel 11. Around the country, you had the Braves on WTBS. You had the Cubs on WGN. That was all basically free. Now it's expensive. The guys over at The Athletic, they sort of priced it out, and they say it cost like $1,000. If you're a Yankee fan and you want to watch all of the games all the way through to the playoffs, you got to get 5 different subscriptions. You got to chase games on 10 different networks. It's frustrating, it's expensive, and, you know, it's going to be tough for this baseball season for people who want to do that sort of thing. Now, there are other services that are trying to make this a little bit easier. You take someone like DirecTV. They say they've got more baseballs than anybody. In addition to the national networks, they've got all of these regional sports networks. They're in turmoil. A lot of them are now being done by Major League Baseball. They've spent their time trying to button up all of these regional sports networks so that you can find yours relatively easy. But relative is the relative term there. It's still going to be tricky to figure out where to find your games and how to watch them.
Yeah, and part of it is, John. There's 162 games in Major League Baseball. The NFL does the same thing. I mean, you have to subscribe to other services to watch games. It's just that each team plays 17 games as opposed to playing 162. So I guess it's all sort of relative as it pertains to that. But naturally, games on Peacock Network, ABC, NBC, a lot of different spots. Okay, so let's get into NASCAR here a little bit, which is a bit of a surprise for us to be talking about this, honestly. Michael Jordan, his success as an owner in NASCAR has been very well documented, John. He seems to be winning with his team almost every single race, and he's being shown at the end of these races high-fiving, as you can see in the picture that we showed. He's having a really good run here, and I certainly wonder if this is what the future holds for all of sports, where you get a mega professional athlete jumping in to try and make the team a little bit better.
Well, Jordan had a lot of money and he had a lot of expertise in basketball and didn't make him much of an owner. He was an owner with the Washington Wizards. That didn't work out so well. He was the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets. That didn't work out too well for those teams. Worked out pretty good for Jordan, though. He walked away with about $3 billion from the Hornets. Now he seems to be scratching his competitive itch with racing. But first, he had to win a lawsuit against NASCAR. NASCAR doesn't have permanent franchises the way that most leagues do. If you're the New York Jets, you're going to be in the NFL for as long as you want to be. You got a permanent franchise. With NASCAR, it was renewed every few years, and Jordan and other owners really didn't like that way. But Jordan had enough money and enough clout and enough just competitive urge to go ahead and say, we don't like this, and he sued them, and eventually he forced a settlement where now his team, Jordan 23XI, is going to be a permanent fixture. That cleared the way for him to be able to pour all that money we were talking about into racing and sign good drivers. I mean, he built a $35 million facility. They call it Air Speed. It's half red like the Bulls. It's half blue like North Carolina. And then he signed some drivers, notably Tyler Reddick, who was, like you said, won a bunch of races this season. And all of a sudden, Jordan's the GOAT when it comes to racing, which is funny considering he sort of he started losing some of his records when it comes to basketball. Kevin Durant just passed him on the all-time scoring list. Now, Jordan doesn't like to talk much about basketball, judging by what we've seen on NBC, which made a big deal about him being one of their commentators. But you know what? This weekend, he's going to be on CBS with Gayle King talking about racing. So racing is what he's into now, and racing's what he's going to be talking about. So let's hear it from Michael and hope he goes faster and faster.
John, do you think that something like this can be moved into another direction? Because I feel like Jordan's popularity, as you said, really earned him very little right to be controlling ownership other than having the money with the Washington Wizards. But maybe this success will kind of plunge him back into that again, maybe in the NBA or somewhere else.
Well, Jordan being Jordan, he's always going to have entree to whatever he wants to have entree into, and the money backing him up certainly helps. You see guys like Magic Johnson doing a great job of owning teams. It's going to be, success breeds success. If people see that Jordans can bring money and bring success and bring order to an organization like NASCAR, people are going to want to have them in. They're going to want them if they're a hockey team, if they're a soccer team. If I think Jordan's into fishing. If any of those sports have the need for a high-profile owner, I think they're all going to be knocking on his door right now.
Well, John, have a great weekend. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon.
Appreciate you, Craig. Thanks for time.
All right, we'll be right back as we get ready to wrap things up. The Big Ten seems to be having a really nice run through the NCAA Tournament. I'll tell you exactly how good when we come back next. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back. Action-packed weekend here on SportsGrid. Make sure you keep it locked here all weekend long because we got great programming, including all of the coverage of the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Naturally, the Houston Open, getting ready for the Masters as well. And, of course, Major League Baseball going on. I believe there is only one afternoon game today, Yankees and Giants, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll give you more on that in just a minute. And then I'll be back with you guys on Sunday for Pro Baseball Today, where we recap the first week of the Major League Baseball season. But as we get ready to wrap things up, one player was looking for a home run yesterday. He did not get that. We'll tell you exactly what that entailed. Also, the Big Ten is having a good run in the NCAA Tournament. That and a whole lot more as we say so long here on this Friday. Let's get started with some last licks. Okay, so Tyler O'Neill, he was that guy, right? You know that little video? That guy. You're not that guy. Yes, he was that guy. First time since 2020 that Tyler O'Neill, the big muscle man on the Baltimore Orioles, had not homered on opening day, which ended a streak, which is incredible, by the way, of 6 straight opening days with O'Neill hitting a home run. In fact, yesterday, he went 1 for 2 with a walk and scored a run. There was a lot of folks that hit home runs, by the way, on opening day yesterday. Unfortunately, for O'Neill, he was not one. I do think that a lot will change between now and even Sunday when we get ready to do our pro baseball show. But to me, the story of opening day was the rookies on opening day with all of those home runs. Chase DeLauder, probably in case you missed it last night, kid on the Arizona Diamondbacks, hit 2 home runs in his Major League Baseball debut. J.J. Weatherhold, Carson Bench, so many home runs. McGonigal, 4 hits. Don't usually see that on the first day of the season, but yes, that happened yesterday. Okay, we also haven't seen the Big Ten have this kind of success in the NCAA tournament. Guess what? 3 out of the 4 Elite Eight teams are from the Big Ten. Yes, this is the Big Ten season. Purdue, Iowa, and Illinois are all headed there. Now, how about this? If Michigan beats Alabama and Michigan State beats UConn, then we could have 5 of the teams that are still left in the tournament in that what they call Elite Eight or Great Eight coming from the Big Ten. And I would tell you this, Michigan is heavy favorites to beat Alabama, so they'll probably win. Now, I don't know about Michigan State UConn. I do have Michigan State winning in my bracket, but I mean, anything honestly could happen. So we'll see. But yeah, this is very clearly was not the SECs, was not the ACCs. We'll see how Duke ends up doing, but this is a Big Ten tournament without a doubt here in 2026. All right, finally, folks, we're getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. In fact, by the time I see you next week, we'll be less than a month away. But having to make a decision on a quarterback is something that every team usually has to do. You're hearing first-round picks for Fernando Mendoza, maybe Simpson on Alabama too, but would one of those teams rather have Tom Brady as their quarterback? Well, guess what? Tom Brady told Richard Sherman that he asked the National Football League about potentially returning as a player while still being the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. This coming after that flag football nonsense that they had over the weekend. Now, how would this even work? Is he talking about being quarterback of the Raiders or being quarterback of someone else? Here's the quote. I actually have inquired. They don't like that idea very much. No duh. We explored a lot of different things, and I'm very happily retired. A league spokesperson told CNBC that there would also be salary cap issues if an active player owned a stake in the team. Doesn't make much sense to me, but how could he possibly... Look, they just drafted... Well, the Raiders have the first pick overall, right? So they're going to take Fernando Mendoza, right, with the first pick overall. So how would this even work? Would Brady play with the Raiders if he gave up his ownership and play year 1 and then turn it over to Mendoza like in year 2? I mean, I suppose the Raiders would go for that, right? But Brady's been out of the game now a couple of years. Look, Phillip Rivers came in. I guess he was okay with Indianapolis, but you never know. All right, I doubt that's going to happen. I know what will happen is we are out of here in just a minute. So thanks again to our guests here on the show today, including John Lafayette, Kyle Soppe, and Sam McQuillan for coming on the show today. Really appreciate that. And as always, thanks to the folks that make this show go. Without me, they could do the show just fine. They're great. Sam was helping out today. He was in for Tommy, and Chris was doing a great job on the show. Frank on the graphics as well. And I know that you're going to be watching Game Time Decisions tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I will be off to the ballpark. For those of you who are watching any Major League Baseball game tonight, I don't know if you will, but if you are streaming, I would encourage you to check out Marlins TV because you could see me on the pregame show tonight getting ready for opening day in Miami. I hope you all have a great weekend. I'll see you back here for our next edition of NewsWire. That will be Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern. We'll take a look toward the Final Four, also get closer to the Masters and the NBA playoffs as well. Until then, have a great weekend. Smarter to be on SportsGrid. See you then.